Byakuya Togami is one of the most hated characters in the entire Danganronpa series, but I'm going to tell you why he's actually pretty cool and misunderstood. Oh my god! Oh my god! My god, my god, my god, my god. Just ignore that. Byakuya is a knob at the start of the game, and by the end of the game he's still a knob, but he's just less of a knob. But that's exactly what people don't acknowledge. People just say he's a twat for the entire game, but he isn't. Okay, I understand it's fair to dislike him, but the way he's treated by the community, you would think he's one of the more shallow characters, but he's actually one of the better developed characters in the franchise when you consider everybody.
Jeez, you're like a stubborn little cockroach, you know that?
That's his way of saying he loves him and he wants to be his boyfriend.
What?
Oh, look, I get it. If he spends the bulk of the game being a twat, I can respect not liking him. But there's a group of people who just refuse to acknowledge the fact that this guy does have development, and by his scenes that you see in the likes of Ultra Despair Girls, Danganronpa 2, and Danganronpa 3, it becomes quite clear that he has developed from the massive rich arsehole that he was at the start of the first game.
Ridiculous fiction is...
Exactly what happened.
Then tell us already. Sorry. Please, tell us.
Oh, Kyoko, I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. Please forgive me, Miss Kiwagiri, please. Just absolutely wasn't necessary at all, was it? Byakuya's development in the game to becoming less of a prick by the end largely comes from the fact that at the start, he only thinks of things in a logical manner, not an emotional manner. That's why Trial 4 is one of the best trials in the franchise, because it's the trial where Byakuya finally realizes that emotion goes into the decisions being made here, and the fact that he never considered emotions is exactly why he couldn't solve the case, but Kyoko and her boyfriend could. So sorry, I meant Kyoko and Byakuya's boyfriend. They should just become polyrumperous. Trial 4 breaks Byakuya's spirit so much that he actually makes the decision to bow out of the game, as I showed in a previous clip. Now, why did he do this? To be honest, I don't have a fucking clue. I know I'm like Mr. Media Literacy and that, but I can't really work it out. I suppose it's a pivotal moment, and at that time, the cast that are still alive have gotten so close to one another that maybe he presumes nobody else is going to kill each other, so there's no point in continuing to be thrilled by the killing game. But again, I don't think they necessarily say exactly why he bowed out the game, but, you know, let's just say that I'm right, because I don't really like being wrong.
Oh
my god, this is so cool, you are my goat. This is why you're my goat. Back to the video now, Sam.
But remember this, no matter what happens, we will find out who you really are. I stake my family name on it.
Yeah, doesn't have much impact now.
Yeah, that's another thing that kind of forces development. His family doesn't even exist anymore. In this trial, he becomes determined to, you know, rebuild his family, but that's because of the royal blood in him. This isn't really something you learn in-game. You have to do his free time events for this. But yeah, he's very much particular about his family because, yeah, even though he thinks he's, you know, hot shit and the bee's knees, he is in his own mind because of the fact that he has that royal blood, and that's exactly the determination that he has in Trial 6 once he finds out that Junko is fucking Enishima'd all over the place. What I found really interesting about Byakuya's development is the only reason his development occurs at all is because of the environment surrounding him, the atmosphere going on. He's been surrounded by 14 commoners in his mind, and eventually being forced to, well, understand them, and that's exactly what happens. That's why Trial 4 is the turning point, him making the mental and emotional decision to bow out of the game and not compete in it anymore, because he doesn't find it nearly as fun anymore. It's like something in his brain clicked that made him think, wait, maybe I'm a dickhead.
Naturally.
Well...
What?
What we've got to remember about Byakuya as well is he was taught to be like this from birth. From the very moment he was born, he was taught to think, I'm better than everyone else, and everyone around me is a little worthless little bastard that I can just crush like a bug. That's exactly what he was taught. He wasn't, you know, born a cunt. He was born taught to be a cunt. There's a difference. However, the circumstances in Trigger Happy Havoc eventually force him to crawl out of this delusional shell of importance that he's been conditioned into, and make him realize that there are humans around him with emotions who can find value in what he would consider to be valueless. Again, it's subtle, and I think that's what a lot of people need to realise. By the end of Trigger Happy Havoc, he isn't this really nice man. He's still a bit of a twat who's kind of up his own arse, but less so to the point where he can actually understand and relate to some people because he was conditioned to not be that way, but the environment around him forced him to think, wait, was I wrong?
You know how much I hate being annoyed, but if something does come up, you may as well let me know. I can't guarantee I'll actually bother listening, but, you know.
It's like the nicest thing he's said up until this point.
Yeah, I think that's the main reason people don't see his development, because it's so subtle. And I understand that. It's not easy to identify, especially if, you're not paying 100% attention all the time. That's not me saying I'm better than anyone, by the way. I know it sounds like it is, and, coming from me, you'd think it is. But no, I genuinely do understand why people don't recognize the development, because it is incredibly subtle. It's not blatant at all, like with some other characters. There's not like a giant difference between him at the start and him at the end. But it's just in the way he says things and the tone in which he says them, where you can notice that there is an evolution there. There is the pinnacle moments that have shaped to change the man he is now, where his shell is still there, but he's coming out of it a bit to be able to understand and relate to the common people, again, because of the fact that this situation has basically forced him to do that. I mean, yeah, it has forced him, but hey, it's done it at the end of the day. But yeah, that's why Byakuya is one of my favourite characters. He's definitely my favourite rival, as much as, he's not quite as chaotic as the other two. But to me, that's quite refreshing to have a rival who, by the end, can be considered quite an ally. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, consider watching some of my other ones. I will leave some links down below, some playlists and that. Anyway, thank you so much, and I will see you all in the next one. See you later. I just need to know. I just need to know.